If you've played Magic for a while, you've probably heard the term staple, like Fury is a staple of Modern. But what does it mean, and should you be playing these cards? For this video, I'm going to be talking about Casual Commander. If you're playing Legacy, you should play Brainstorm. If you're playing CEDH, you should play Ad Nauseam. This is not for those. This is just for Casual Commander. Okay, so what is a staple card? Well, it's a card you could say that is very good, and unless you have a specific reason not to use it, then it should go in your deck. For Commander, I think Sol Ring is a really good example. It can go in basically any deck. It's very powerful. It's also only about $1, and it's colorless. There are very few reasons not to play Sol Ring. So when you build your Commander deck, it's not 99 cards plus your Commander. It's 98 cards plus your Commander and Sol Ring. One card has essentially already been decided for you. There are other cards like this too. Cyclonic Rift, Demonic Tutor, Mana Crypt, Command Tower, and Sol Ring, plus many, many more. And now a lot of these are very expensive, so they might not show up due to budget reasons, like Mana Crypt or even Psych Rift. And if you don't have a card due to budget restrictions, that's also perfectly reasonable. I'm going to ignore that argument for this video as well, because I'm not talking about budget here. The problem I have with a lot of these cards is it's correct to put in almost every deck, so they're played a ton. Like if you want a tutor and you're in black, there's almost no reason not to play Demonic Tutor over something else. It's the best in class. So by that logic, it almost restricts your deck building, because if I need a tutor and I'm in black, I only really have one option if I want to choose the quote-unquote best option. Now, not every deck might want a tutor, which is why the One Ring is probably the most egregious example yet. It's a fog, which is actually pretty decent, and massive card advantage. Previously, other than Rhystic Study, I don't think there was a real card advantage staple. Like, every deck would probably need to find something in their colors that fit the theme. Mono Red and Mono White kind of had Mind's Eye and not much else. But you'd see different things, Rhystic Study, Necropotence, Greater Good. The One Ring, though, is pretty much on par with a lot of those, or similarly powerful, but it's colorless, so it goes in every deck. Plus, it has tons of extra synergy. Any spell that bounces something can become a fog because you bounce the ring and put it back into play. Or your clone effects become fogs because you can just clone the ring or an opponent's ring and just sacrifice the old one, which resets the counters as well, so you can stop taking damage from it. It's a card draw engine that can do all sorts of things, save you, and if you actually have a way to loop it in your deck, it's kind of a win con, or somewhat close. But it's just another card that restricts deck building because you need to fit it in unless you want to be behind, because if you got the One Ring and I don't, I'm definitely falling behind in card advantage. Some of you, though, who have seen my deck tech videos might be calling me a hypocrite, because I still play the One Ring in decks, and Demonic Tutor, and many other staples. If you look at my deck list on Moxfield, you'll find tons of staple cards, especially fast mana. So why? Well, partly it's a power level thing. Even with cards like Mana Crypt and Mox Diamond, my Grenzo deck still loses to precons. And that's because ramping into Elturel Survivors just isn't the same as using fast mana to power out a combo. This is where I really like staples, generic cards that are very powerful to help out weak jank themes. So my Mono Red Power 2 or Less Matters is suddenly able to ramp just as well as any other deck because I have some of the best ramp spells in the game in my deck. Even though that theme might normally fall behind, with better ramp, I can keep up with some other decks. And now that the One Ring has been printed, my Mono Red Ben control deck has a great card advantage engine that it was just lacking. Many Mono Red or Mono White decks now have access to powerful card advantage. So are these cards too good? Should you be playing staple auto-include cards? I spent a lot of time pondering this before making the video, and ultimately I think it really comes down to the context of your deck and your play group. I feel like cards like Colorless Ramp, such as Mana Crypt or Arcane Signet, give non-green decks a way to ramp. Without those colorless ramp cards, green would probably be even more powerful than it already is in Casual Commander. Same with the One Ring and card draw. It helps me build control style decks in non-blue colors. And for staples with color in them, well, there's always going to be a best version of a board wipe or tutor, and that would be the staple. That would be the one you would run over all the others. So even if Demonic Tutor got banned, well, then Vampiric Tutor would probably be more of a staple. But I do think that if your deck has on-theme card draw or removal or whatever else, you should probably play that over staples if you're not too worried about power level. cutting cards like Cyclonic Rift in favor of Ruinous Ultimatum and Omnath is probably going to make the deck weaker overall, but Ruinous Ultimatum works with the deck's theme. And cutting the best version of something for an on-theme one, although slightly powering your list down, can make it a lot more interesting and fun. But then there's the total opposite side of that. If you're finding that your jank theme goofy deck is just not holding up, even against other somewhat lower power decks, maybe something like the One Ring could be the card advantage that your deck needs to succeed. Just keep in mind that these cards are generally very powerful, these top played cards. So if your deck is already a really strong theme, like a Gruul Landfall or Esper Reanimator, then putting in cards like Fast Mana will really bump up the power level, pretty high. So keep that in mind just when you build your decks and in terms of your play group. I also don't want to discourage anyone from actually playing any cards that they really like. If you pulled a cool art for Demonic Tutor and want to play it, that's totally fine. Ultimately, the interesting parts of your deck are not going to come from the generic ramp, removal, card draw, but from the unique individual pieces you put in them. So please don't take this as absolutely don't play any of these cards. So those are my general opinions on staples and whether or not you should play them. I know it wasn't like a cut and dry answer, but I really couldn't come up with a solid yes or no for this topic. But what do you think about staples? I'd love to hear in the comments whether or not you play them. Do you cut any of these cards because you think they're too good or too boring? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so very much for watching. If you like videos like this and want to see more, consider subscribing.